All right, good morning, everyone. Again, my name is Sarah Warnick, and I'm the instructional supervisor working with faculty as well as students. And what we're going to do today is to go through just a brief introduction about the Virtual Virginia program. We will be talking to you a little bit about our blended and outreach opportunities, and then we'll go through specifically EPF. And Mr. Landon, do you mind moving on to the next slide? So we'll talk about the revisions that happened with the EPF course over this last year that were beta tested in the summer. You'll get to see some of the changes and updates to improve the course experience. We'll talk a little bit about the enrollment process, and then there will be some time at the end for some questions and answers. So as we started, you may see a poll that pops up. Let's just take a look at the results from the poll. So it looks like 15% have been using the EPF resources for more than 3 years, 31% for between 1 and 3 years, and 54% of you have not yet used the Virtual Virginia local EPF resources. So we are glad that each of you are here. For those of you who have been using the resources, we have some updates that I think you'll be very pleased to see. And for those of you who are completely new to it, we're excited to share what we have. So to talk to you a little bit first about Virtual Virginia, we are the online provider through the Department of Education. We offer through our supplemental and full-time program access to 90 courses. We have over 30,000 semester equivalency enrollments, and that works out to about 15,000, a little over 15,000 full year enrollments. In addition to our supplemental and full-time program, we offer blended and outreach options for local schools. And we'll talk a little bit about what that means. So with the blended program, we'll go into the next one. When we talk about blended learning, and I just wanted to share this definition up front because there are many different definitions out there. Some of you may be everybody should have a general idea of what blended learning is, but just so that we're on the same page, this is the definition from the Clayton Christensen Institute. So blended learning is a formal educational program in which a student learns at least in part through online learning with some element of student control over time, place, path, and/or pace. At least in part in a supervised brick and mortar location away from home, and the modalities along each student's learning path within a course or subject are connected to provide an integrated learning experience. The key part here is some element of student control over the time, place, path, and/or pace. And this is really where you all will come in looking at the blended resources to determine what that looks like in your division. With our blended EPF course that is offered in its entirety, some divisions may choose to use it fully, taking advantage of all of the assessments and the grade book that's provided. Some divisions may choose to use it in part, and that is up to you, how you choose to make this fit into what your needs are at the local divisions. We'll go on to the next one. Our outreach program encompasses the locally offered EPF resources, the locally offered EPF course. In addition to that, we offer 11 other resources for different courses in math, science, and computer science. Our goal and our mission is to provide resources to you as well as skills, helping you to develop the technical skills and best practices so that you can create a successful blending learning environment in your local divisions. What we're going to talk about now, and we have our local expert, Stephen Sproles, we're going to talk about the EPF course revision. We'll go through what updates were made to the courses, the revisions that will take place this year, or that will go into effect this year. It was beta tested in our summer courses, and then we'll actually take you into a demo course so that you can see it as it's presented in our Canvas LMS. And so without further ado, I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Sproles and let him walk you through probably the most exciting part of this.
Hey everybody, this is Stephen. Can I just do a quick check and make sure you can hear my audio okay? All right, thank you guys, I appreciate that. I am really excited about this project. I had a chance to work on the project last semester, throughout the spring semester, as we did work on updating the course and making some revisions. And then also I had the chance to teach the course over the summer and use it in the new platform, the new Canvas platform that we're using, as opposed to the older, the one that we used before, Desire to Learn. And it does use a great deal of the content that we had before, but it's a very different experience for the learner. It's much more streamlined, a very much improved experience for our learners, and it does use updated technology, and all of those things are very big improvements to the course experience overall. And you can see on the screen there we had the revision goals. We took a look at those at the end of last year and decided that we needed to do some updating, and those were the three things that we really wanted to focus on. Beginning in the spring, when we got the technology and we got everything kind of in line, we decided we were going to start with, and this may be of particular interest to those of you that have used the course several times in the past, we wanted to do a major conversion of those interactives from Flash-based to HTML. One of the things that we really liked and we continue to think of as a really strong point of the course is that there are lots of little check for understanding activities throughout the course. Generally speaking, students do not cover a great deal of material before they reach a stopping point at which they get to practice the skills or the concepts or the terminology that they've just learned. That's critical for enriching the learning experience, and so we wanted to make sure that we preserved that. Unfortunately, we've heard from a lot of you guys in local school divisions, and also from our students here at Virtual Virginia, that some of those older interactives, those little interactive exercises, checks for understanding, were not always functioning at 100%. They weren't always loading very quickly. In some cases, there were some inaccuracies. So we decided to make that one of the biggest elements that we would focus on. So we began that back in the spring. We also decided to revise some documented errors and some of the dated course content. The course was developed, I can remember teaching a piloted version of the course back in 2010, 2011. So some updates have been made in terms of dated course content. And then in June, we did implement the revised course in our beta test environment, our new learning management system. And several virtual Virginia teachers, used that to teach the course over the summer. And again, just to sort of talk about some of the three goals there, in terms of the new version of the course, the structure is now, EPF is now aligned to the Virtual Virginia course structure, naming and navigation. So every lesson within the course is now aligned into 16 large modules. The existing course, as it was last year, the older course, had large units. Each unit was broken down into lessons, and then each lesson contained modules. The standard Virtual Virginia naming convention and navigation is to have modules. That's the larger unit of instruction, the larger chunk of instruction, broken down into lessons. And so that's what we've now done. We have the 16 large chunks of instruction. Those are now modules, and the lessons are simply aligned into those modules. Canvas, the new learning management system, simplified instructor and student user experience, very, very positive feedback from teachers and students this summer. Just a much faster interface to use. And then finally, HTML. Those older interactives are now fully HTML. Mr. Sharkey is with us. He's going to talk in a few minutes, but we do still have the Flash fallback. So if students are using perhaps a slightly older browser and HTML5 is not fully compatible, we still have Flash fallback embedded in those, but they're cleaner, they look more appealing, and they run much faster. And what do we have on our next slide? Okay, we're going to go ahead and do a demo here. And for this, I'm going to, let's see, Mr. Landon, I think I can request. Oh, there we go. Okay, if you've got your modules loaded, if you want to click.
Well, yeah, Stephen, it's up to you. If you want to request access and do this yourself, I've got it. I do have it up. If you want to try this, since it's already there, we can try this.
Let me see. Yeah, if you want to go ahead and click on modules, and this may take a moment to, actually, that's loading pretty quickly there. If we want to scroll down to, let's look at lesson 19. There we go, types of competition, and you'll click on the opening activity there. And you may notice, oh, I'm sorry, you need to,
sorry.
That's okay. No, the loading. Actually, before we even click there, you may notice that we still have, we had the five different portions of the lesson, and that's standard throughout. You see that over and over. We have an opening activity. We have the objectives, and those are aligned to the SOLs. We have the actual content, followed by a summary, and then the assessment. So it's much more streamlined compared to the multiple pages that students got in the past.
Yeah, sorry for the delay there. I think it's because we're doing this over the webinar. It
Yeah.
takes a second, but
here we go. Typically pretty fast, and this is a very large course. And still, the Canvas interface moves much more quickly than the one that we had last year. So as you can see here, relatively cleaned up, much more straightforward in terms of content presentation. Very simple. We use bold to call out words that are that we want the kids to pay attention to. We give them a little reading strategy there. We've tried to make sure that everything is, fits in terms of contrast. So made quite a few decisions in terms of just how things look on the page and how students access the material. And go ahead and we'll go to the next one there. And then all the objectives look like this. Students see the module in the lesson. They can quickly see what their objectives are. And also we have here, and this is also beneficial for you as the instructor, you see what your Virginia Standards of Learning are. You have sort of a larger SOL and then a specific SOL. Typically you get, sometimes you might even have multiple ones of those specific SOL objectives per lesson. And I do see, thank you, Sarah, for answering that. I just wanted to make sure that was addressed. Okay, competition rising. Now, again, for those of you that have seen the course before, some of these look kind of familiar, the images and so forth, but it also looks, the presentation is a little different. So here we have, sort of the first image and kind of a comic, sort of thing. And I think, Mr. Landon, there may be is there like a next button that the student would click through then to, under the comic screen, I'm sorry. Yes. Okay, and then they see, that's the end of that one. It's 2 of 2. And as they read, they're going to understand, okay, those are, competing interests there. Students who are trying to raise funds for their particular activity there in school. And again, they've got those words that are highlighted to be called out. And they get the majority of the specifics in terms of the content as we keep scrolling. And we get another illustration there. And we keep going, and then we've got, we tried to include more things like tables and make them a little more visually appealing to help sort of delineate specific information like that. And if we keep scrolling, we should get one of those self-check. I'm guessing, I was going to say right after the different types of competition would be a good place for that. So then, students can then click and drag and drop those. And Mr. Landon, you can just click those and we'll see, without you reading the text, without you, we'll see how well you do there.
I was going to use my skills as a social studies teacher to get through that, Stephen, but okay, so I think I got at least one right.
Fingers crossed. Sorry. You can now click your review there. So you can. Now, this is kind of like before. Now, not all of these are like this. Not all of these are going to say, these are what you missed. But you do have the opportunity to go back and review. and then you can finish. You can retry the activity. You can actually launch it again there as opposed to the review. So students can then go in and go, oh, the oligopoly, it looks like it's that first one there, the few sellers, high cost of industry and of entering the industry and so forth. So this is an example of a relatively brief drag and drop activity that students now have. In the past, something like this typically took, it could take up to 30 seconds to load on the page, and students would frequently report that they had difficulty with. There you go, Mr. Landon. You did it.
I'm still not going to take away my social studies card here.
That's you can enroll in AP Micro. That
should clearly
start next week. So, and anyway, let's scroll down. That may be our last self check on this one. I'm not sure. We got competition. I don't know. We may have another. But then after we get through the competition page, the content page, students will then have a summary. Let's see. Let's scroll. Oh, there's another image. Yep, looks like there is another self-check there. Yeah. And these are kind of like in the older course, what used to be presented as little static images that may be flipped over, sort of like flip cards. And a lot of these were still able to maintain the images, but we presented them sort of in these sliding cards that students could flip through. All right, and if we go to next, we'll just quickly, I'm sorry, I don't want to take a lot of time. Each lesson is going to have a summary. These are typically very brief, and again, just go over the highlights, the main concepts presented in the module. And then at the end of each lesson, as opposed to having a comprehension check or an activity that is tied to one of those flash activities, we have any kind of academic connections, but also very, very nice and smooth. You can go ahead and click on that. And these are super, super fast. They load very easily. And they're self-checks. They actually report a grade, but very, very fast and easy for students to click through these. So that, to me, those are two huge improvements, that the checks for understanding are much smoother. They go much more quickly, and also those interactives. So that gives you a good overview of just sort of a sample lesson within the course, the structure, and some of the changes that we've made.
Can we go back to modules for just a moment? One of the big changes this year with the course update is that course pages, the content pages, are now much more customized. You can customize the content on there to add or hide. Mr. Sproles, do you want to talk briefly about that?
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
That was definitely a big improvement.
Yes. In the past, because the modules and the lessons were created in sort of a closed package, so to speak, that had to report the grade to the grades area, that made it very difficult for teachers to make any updates sort of within the content. Now, Mr. Landon here, Mr. Landon, would you click on L1 content? You can just click on the actual, yes, click that. That should open it up to be able to edit for you. Because you have a teaching role here, and it shows you the content. But I think we need to scroll back up to the top and click edit. Because you are the teacher, you can go in and make changes yourself. If you decide that, maybe you want to change the title, or you want to throw in a call out here, you want to add an image. If you have some rich media, some content you'd like to add, you'd like to do a bulleted list, you'd like to create a table. These were things that sort of had to just be appended to the lessons before. These can now be streamlined. These can now be edited right there on the page, and probably one of the biggest improvements that we have. much easier now for individual teachers to make those edits and customize each, not just the course, the look of the course, but each lesson there right on the page.
If you click on cancel for just a moment and going back up to the top, the other thing that is very easy to do, you'll notice there is a green published button at the top. For any content that you decide you might not want to use, if you're not using the course in its entirety, you can quickly and easily unpublish a page, and that hides it from the students. That can be done from the main modules view as well. So Mr. Lennon, if you'll click on modules.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
No, I just working on it. There we go.
So over on the right-hand side, you'll see, if we scroll over just a little bit to the right, you'll see that published pages, they'll come up in just a second, and it could be my connection as well. The published pages will have the bold green check mark. By clicking on that, you can quickly and easily unpublish any content that you want to hide from students. So Canvas LMS is very user-friendly and much easier to customize to local needs.
I just want to throw out as well, in my role as facilitator of our learning community, excuse me, I'm going to provide some additional resources on that, on how to use the Canvas LMS overall, and it is very user-friendly. This is one of many neat little tricks that you can do. One thing I like to do in all of my courses is sort of create a resource area. And if it's not quite up to par, if it's, okay, I've got a resource area and I only have, a couple of resources there, and I really want to have half a dozen before I publish it for the kids, you can leave it unpublished and build it as you go. And if it's today's August 9th, if it's August 20, before I really want to make that go live for students in my classes so they can go in and start using some of those, links and videos and things I've found, that's a great way to do it. You can hide it, leave it unpublished until then. So lots of little things we can explore in our community, within our virtual Virginia community.
Let me just say, because I know this is on the mind, especially of those who have taught with us using this resource before, we are mindful that this is new. We would have loved to have been able to provide some of this information to you earlier. We really have been scrambling all summer to make sure it is ready for you. But we are going to provide training opportunities through Mr. Sproles and the outreach part of this, and also our help desk and others, and we'll talk about that going forward. We also will offer, we're happy to offer some orientation materials. There's a tremendous amount of things on that Canvas offers directly to you that you will have access to, and we'll talk about that in a minute, because I know that is a stress point for those of you who have been using it before. It is analogous to when you come back to school and find out that big changes have been made over the summer. We apologize for not being able to give you more of a heads up on exactly what was happening.
So just in recapping, we have, with the revisions that Mr. Sproles just walked you through for the course, it was beta tested during the summer. August 9th, we have our local webinar, which local EPF start of the year kickoff, and enrollment begins tomorrow. We will, at the end of this year, evaluate how the local EPF course has run and make any revisions that are needed. So it's part of our continuous improvement for all of our courses, as well as the blended offerings. I know first and foremost you are interested in how to get your students enrolled and how to get access to this. So without further ado, we're going to switch over to Mr. Sharkey, who will walk you through that process, and then we'll have some time for questions.
All right, is my audio coming through okay?
Yes, it's a little soft, Nate, so speak up. Would you like me to give you remote control here, or are you okay?
Yes, that'd be good. And I'll try to speak up a little bit. excuse me. So as Sarah said, we are opening the enrollment process tomorrow. And if you've used this before, that part of the process is the same. You will have this, it runs through the school counselor that normally does the registrations in the Genius system. The directions are outlined on our website, step by step, but it's basically a CSV, a comma separated value upload, some basic student information, first name, last name, STI. We're working on including email, the student's email. That change is not on the website yet, but hopefully is up to date. I'm waiting for word back on our service provider. They're hoping to get that in time for us. But please check the website to see the update. It should update tomorrow with the email if that's what we're looking to require. And then once that CSV file is uploaded, that actually enrolls the teacher and the student. Can you bring it up, the website, the local, I can't share while you're sharing.
And I did put the URL for the process.
Okay, great.
Okay, I did just stop sharing, Nate, so you may be able to now share.
Okay.
And our apologies for this. Also, everybody, we have upgraded our conferencing application, and you all are among the first to experience a webinar with us. So we're learning how to drive. You got it, Nate, or do you need me to jump back in?
No, it's coming up now. Sorry.
No, it's no worries. Just making sure.
Okay, can everybody see the screen? So if you go to our website, as mentioned earlier, log in here. That's the same for everybody. You're gonna log into there. There's a small change now. Everybody will be logging in through our Genius system. So when you go to log in, you'll log in and then click Go to LMS, which is a small change, and I'll update the website with some information on that. But basically, the instructions are here. It gives you the template file that the counselor will need to upload. A lot of times, you get that information maybe from your information systems department, or if you have it, like I said, it's real basic. We're going to try to add email in here, but you can get the CSV file template here. Please make sure that the headings match. It's very important, or you'll get errors. Another thing to note is if you do create it on a Mac in Office, you need to save it in the Windows comma separated format, or you will get an error. It's just a weird thing with the Genius CSV upload. So let me switch over to, sorry, my bar's in the way. This is the actual screen they'll see. When they go to their affiliation, there's a bulk import for the counselor. And then they'll choose the course. Right now it's just EPF. As the program goes, we'll probably be adding some in there, so make sure you choose EPF if that's the course. And you can choose the teacher. If the teacher has taught previously, they'll already be populated in this list, and you just select them. If they haven't taught previously, the counselor just creates a new teacher here, and then comes back to affiliation bulk, and that teacher will then show. And then you just simply choose a file and upload it. When you find that CSV file, after you run that file, you'll get a report down here of successes and failures. If there are any failures or errors, it will give you the reason. So you can just fix that line on the file, and you can actually rerun the whole file. You don't have to just run individual. It won't change anything on the other ones. It won't dual enroll them or anything. So you can just rerun the whole file, make sure everything says it went okay. That process then actually is what sets up the section and enrolls the students and teachers. And at the same time, it will enroll the teacher into the facilitator course that Stephen will be located in. So you'll have access to the content and help in there. And then you'll actually have an enrollment into your own course where you can go in and customize it, and your students will be in there and you can get started in there. The facilitator course might not quite be automated by tomorrow. Again, I'm waiting to hear back from the provider, but if not, it would just be a day or so delay before we can get you in there manually until that actually gets set up. So that's basically it. Like I said, if you used it, it's basically the same setup. If you're new to it, that's how you get going. That's how everything gets set up. When the user's created, they should receive an email. The teacher should receive an email stating this is how you log in. And then like I said, then they just go into this login page from the website.
There's a question over on the side, and I know you can't see that.
Yeah, I was trying, yeah.
There's a question, will I still have 3 classes as before because I ran a year-long and a first and a second semester course, and that can be created through the 3 separate bulk uploads, correct?
Yes. Is that Rapace from Blacksburg asking, I think, because it was unique. Yeah, basically you had the individual user, I think, so they will need to upload under that same username, and you will have the 3 separate courses. So you can edit them how you'd like from there. Yeah. Yes, what you'll do, sorry, I didn't cover that. Break down your file by teacher. So teacher A has file A, then you'd run the process again for teacher B. That way they get their own section created with their individual students. You can divide it up that way. Was there any other questions on that process? And like I said, that process should be opening up tomorrow for that to begin. And oh, let me say, since this is the first time, as we actually copy content into your course as you sign up, the first go round, if you return, come back, it'll be there. But so there will be a slight delay because of the course copying process. So it might take a day overnight to actually get that copied in there. You'll have access to the course, but the content will come in later. So you just kind of check back and see if there's a bulk copy process that has to run.
All right, if we can actually go back
okay.
to the original presentation. I'm sorry, did you have something else to add?
Sorry, yeah, there was another question. Then I did want, this brought up another thing. If you had a student after they signed up, okay, same thing. If you have any additions, once the original upload is set up for that teacher, their section is created. Any additions to that instructor, you would do the same process. Just put them in a CSV file, go and upload. It will actually go ahead and put them into that section and enroll everything, set everything up for you. So that's how you do additions. If you need to drop a student, that is done by the counselor like they do a regular Virtual Virginia enrollment. They should be familiar with that process. And then if there's a transfer that needs to occur, say student was signed up with teacher A but needs to be in teacher B now for schedule change or whatever that reason is, we've actually given the power to the school to do that as well. The counselor, there's instructions on the website for that as well at the bottom that talks about transferring a student. So they can go into Genius and they can actually do a bulk transfer, even if it's one student, that's what it's called, but they just check the student, put them in the new section, it moves everything over. One note on that is make sure that you have a record of the grades before you move them. Those won't follow over, so you'll need to actually put those in after that transfer happens. But that can be done right there. So if there's a schedule change or a mistaken enrollment, you can swap them right there in Genius through the counselor. Will teacher get login? Okay,
yes, the counselor can add and drop and change, correct.
Yeah, and then for the teacher get login information for themselves. Yes, you should receive login information when you get set up. And actually when the student moves. Okay, so when the student moves courses, the login information the counselor actually gets out of Genius as well. For security reasons, they have to go into the system to do it. We no longer email those out. So if the counselor goes in and clicks on the section, they can then see the list. Actually, I believe as your teacher account in Genius, you can click on the section as well and get the student password. It's actually listed there in the student list. It'll have their username and passwords for you. So you don't have to wait on that. As soon as they're in Genius, you'll have that information. All right, so the teacher password. You should receive an email from Canvas about your login when that happens. Now, does your login work in Genius now? That would be the thing. You might be, because since you're returning, you might be able to get into Genius now with it. So you could check and see. Okay.
Just so you know, one of the issues we did have in the summer was more with returning students who may have bookmarked a login for their old courses in D2L, our old learning management system, and those students will not see their courses unless they come in through Genius. So that is a change this year. New students had no problem with it, but it was an issue with returning students and in some cases teachers.
All right, if we can go back to the original presentation, I just want to review some of the resources that you have to assist you. I know moving to a new LMS, you will have some questions. The course is the same. It has been updated and revised. And we do want to make sure that we go through some of the resources you have available to you. So if we can go to that second to the last slide. Give that just a minute to update. So in addition to...
Are you seeing it now, Sarah?
I'm seeing the structure Canvas HTML page.
Okay. Oh, okay. Sorry. I'm on. Okay. I shared the wrong window. Hold on just a second.
There we go. All right. So we have a couple pieces that can help support. For teachers, local EPF teachers, you have Mr. Sproles, the VVA facilitator. You will also have access to the professional learning network of other teachers enrolled in that course to help share ideas and potential resources. Canvas also offers a support hotline that is available to all teachers enrolled in Canvas. You can live chat to ask your questions. You have access to a phone hotline. They are very readily supportive of questions, whether it's a big question or a small question, so don't hesitate to use that support. Additionally, for student questions and problems with student logins, contact the Virtual Virginia Help Desk. And if we'll go to the next slide so that we can share some of the names and numbers that can help, and then we'll take questions at the end. So again, Director of Instruction, Tom Landon. I'm the instructional supervisor. Our registrar for getting getting students registered, Tavy Young. Virtual Virginia Help Desk to help provide some of the tech support, and Stephen Sproles, the blended EPF facilitator. So take a moment if you want to take a screenshot of this information so that you know who your support network is. We are here to help support you as you go through the adjustment and getting courses set up. So please let us know. We want to make this a successful experience for you and your students.
Let me jump in here real quick too, just in case there's anybody in the room. If you have not used Virtual Virginia before and don't have your school set up or a counselor, just contact Tavy Young and she can help you get your school set up and your counselor designated so you can do this. Just in case anybody hasn't used us as a regular program before. If students have taken classes with Virtual Virginia previously, everything should be set up. But if they haven't, just contact the registrar and to get set up.
Yeah, I will just jump in on there too. And just one of the reasons Nate is saying that is we do want to avoid having duplicate accounts set up for the same school. So if do check and make sure if you're new to this and you have no idea, check with your counseling department to make sure that almost every school in Virginia should have an account with us, but there may be a few outliers, but we want to use that existing school account, not create a duplicate version of your school for EPF.
All right, we are at the end of the webinar presentation, but would like to invite you to ask any questions. I know you all have been good about asking some throughout, but are there any lingering questions that you have that we can help with? And feel free to write those out. When does registration close for EPF? It is rolling, so there is no close for it. So you can enroll at any time. It opens again tomorrow, August 10th, and schools could enroll students throughout the year. So unlike our regular registration period for our supplemental and full-time program where we have to staff through Virtual Virginia courses, this is locally staffed, so there is no close. Excellent question.
And this isn't for closing registration, but just thinking going forward, kind of like before, as far as we see it as well, if you return next year, I know sometimes you do a lot of work in there to customize these courses. As far as returning, the goal is to, again, like we did in D2L, have you in that same shell coming back. So if you make customizations, to be able to use those year after year.
All right, I'm not seeing any additional questions. We will hang around for just a moment after, but we'll go ahead and end the recording. Thank you so much for attending. We look forward to working with you this year, and we look forward to going and helping you as you work through the registration process with Canvas. Thank you so much.